So, welcome to this demo. This month demo is about domain authority. The idea or the main idea of this session is just to bring a cool and nice set of ideas, specific ideas for anyone that wants to get this started as soon as possible without too much research or looking for documentation. So I'm pretty much just going to cover uh, SEO off and on pages ideas to do domain authority specifically. And at last, I'm going to share a couple of examples from clients that we have of how you guys can build authority and try to find those opportunities on the web. First, DA, that's the acronym of domain authority. So it has a lot of different definitions. One thing that I learned in the 15 years actually that the agency holds right now, it's that, when you find something written on paper and you go through it and then you compare it with the reality and your own experience, then that definition might change a bit, right? So the way we look at this definition of domain authority in the agency, it's that we don't look at it as an absolute measure. The idea is not to get the highest score. That's not the idea. It's we look at it as a metric that allow us to have a better idea, a summarized idea of what's the website's relevance for a very specific subject area or service or industry. Um, Comparing ranking levels to domain authority scores, well, the relationship is higher domain authority scores, well, better ranking. So having or trying to have a higher domain authority score is going to give you eventually more opportunities to be on the first page of the search engine result pages. So in other words, it's a metric that helps predict the website ranking potential. But that's all related to the niche that you belong and the competitors, what they're doing. So it's not only about the number, but it's just we look at it as a whole, but it's just a summarize of how potential that website is or it could get, including comparing competitors. Um, Now, how can you help your domain authority score? Well, there are two different options. You can do SEO on page or SEO off page. So on page, it's all the technical and content related optimizations that you can run in the website itself, that you don't have to wait for anything or anybody. You just, you can optimize your titles. You can make sure that your header one are not the same as the title of the page. Stuff like that. That's all SEO on page. But then we have the SEO off page, which are all the things, all the efforts that you can do that are not inside of your website, but it's actually outside in the internet world. So, what are the SEO off pages idea that I bring today? First, internet directories, all the available internet directories that you can find that are a fit for your business. Not that I'm going to create profiles on any internet directory that I find. Doesn't matter if it relates or not to my business niche or my business itself. You have to find directories that are there available and that are related to your business niche. Also, review platforms are a really good starting point to get yourself on 2 feet on regarding to the domain authority. Platforms such as Trustpilot, Google My Business as well, that allows users to write a review, Yelp, and there's many other platforms like this. TripAdvisor, if you are a travel agency or you are a tour operator in your country or your area, Um, Also, another idea for off-page SEO, it's online forums. It's important for, well, we will recommend this to any of our clients, but it's important for every website owner to be aware of the forums that are related to the service or the business they provide, and try to be involved, try to be part of those forums, have a valid user, not as the company name, but as a person, have a user for yourself and log into discussions coming out. And if you see the possibility, then just mention your business name, which is also valid, and also the URL if the forum allows you to include URLs. Most of the forums right now, you need to have some time before they give you permission to add links. But if you get your website published, this will also be a good idea to get started. Find those online forums and try to get active on the discussions happening over there. Now, the toxicity score on a lot of websites in the internet, which just have a link pointing at your website, it's something that it's important to keep an eye on. You can use an SEO tool like Moz or SEMrush to have a nice and quick way to find those links. And once you find those links and you check those websites and you find out that those websites are just a bunch of links pointing at different websites, then you can go into the disavow tool that you have available on the Google Search Console, and you can register those URLs or domain depending on each scenario, and tell Google that, don't listen to those links. Google is really good at um, identifying spam websites, which are just for links building, but it's also good to be proactive and to tell and let Google know that, those links, don't listen to them, especially because if you don't do this task in a very proactive way, you might end up having a bunch of junk traffic going into your website that it's not good, high quality traffic, and you might analyze your data, your analytics, and you might not get the right picture because some of that traffic could not be relevant to your business because it's coming from all these toxic websites. So it's also a good off-page idea to keep track on those high toxicity score websites. And SEO on pages ideas, what you can do on your website. Well, first, now it's more important than ever to have a blog on your website if you want to have the possibility to eventually create an article that is going to be relevant on the internet. Then all of a sudden you're going to have this bunch of links pointing at that that blog article, and start having not only traffic coming in thanks to the article that you come up with, but also links pointing at from valid websites. So it's always a good strategy on page to have a blog and try to publish news about your business, about the niche that you belong to, tips, recommendations. For example, being in webinars that talk about the latest about your business niche, and then just come up with a small article about something very specific on that webinar, sorry, on that webinar, that will eventually give you the possibility to automatically have a bunch of links pointing at your website, thanks to that article that you come up with. So having a blog and creating content, it's a good idea. Then if your niche is saturated with a bunch of competitors, which is something normal right now, we recommend trying local SEO and focusing on service areas that you work or your business office is located. I'm going to show an example after I finish with the slides about this. And the last recommendation is to get an SEO tool like Moz and SEMrush that allows you to track not only your website off page, but also on page efforts. And also, a good thing that I really like about this kind of tool is that it gives you the opportunity to keep track on the competitors that you want to keep an eye on. Okay, cool. So that's the slides. And now I'm going to move into the browser just to show you guys two examples. This one is for a client that we have in Boston, is for meal prep service. And they got like this nice article video on the local news program. So they have this video. We published this video on the main page, but this is the 5 WCVB news local from the location where the business is located, and they got this nice video that this news local news uh, did. And once they published the video and people look at it, well, we got a pretty nice traffic injection, high quality traffic injection. A lot of people going into the website. We got included into a lot of high quality keywords search terms that we weren't before this video. So if you have the possibility to create this kind of content, not only text, but video and relate to like a local news, it will be a great idea to generate authority on the domain, because eventually people will look for your company and will visit your website. And the last example I have, it's this company, it's in Costa Rica, it's a moving service company. Um, Once we were able to put these guys on the first page of Google, so let me just change the browser because I have everything logged in over there, so it's not gonna look naturally. So let's just put the search here. So I'm looking for a moving company service in Costa Rica. The whole content is in Spain, but Spanish, sorry. But this is the ads, and then we have the Google My Business, and this is the organic results. So these guys are on the first position of Google. One thing that we did with the local SEO is that once we noticed that they were on the first page, we created sub pages for the different province or states in Costa Rica. So we created a landing page for San Jose, which is the main capital city of Costa Rica. Then we have another page for Heredia, which is another city, and Alajuela, which are the cities that this company works usually at. So once we did that, since these guys are already on the first page of the main search criteria, which is mudanzas in Costa Rica, then we go to Google and then we do mudanzas, but then we put Heredia, which is the city. You have the ads over here, you have the Google My Business, and then you will see that these guys are showing up again in another search term different than the previous one, but this is related to the location. And if we go into the landing page, they will jump into the page about this place. And if we do the same for Alajuela, which is the other city, we'll put as the same as Heredia. These guys will be on the first position there, but with the landing page that talks about Alajuela. So one of the things that you can do for SEO on page, it's to create local pages related to the service area, so you can focus on search terms related to locations that most businesses will not be doing. And this is something that we have found in several different business areas. So that's a pretty nice idea to work on SEO. Focus on local landing pages that will cover main cities or towns that are around the business office location, so you can be relevant on the SERPs. So that's about it. I'm not sure if somebody has a question or a comment about the session, about the demo. Go ahead, guys.
I do. We do a lot of this SEO, search engine placement stuff, and I thought it was pretty interesting you brought up the cities, because it's one of the things we really like doing is we'll take a specific service or thing the client does or product and then respin the page for each city in the area, because they always search results are pretty good in their home city. Like we're in Champaign, Urbana, Savoy, Tolono, Rantoul, there's all these cities in the area. And so if they're in Mahomet, for example, we have to do a little more work to get them business in Champaign. What I wanted to ask you, the specific question is, when you are making those pages on the same topic for each city, have you ever gotten dinged for duplicate content, and what would you do about it?
Yeah. Well, that's we rely on the client on that part. We try to be very focused on the quality of content that they have to provide to us. Um, but we do the cities landing pages once we are able to see the actual business showing up in the list or on a couple of the keywords from the main list we created at the beginning of the project. Because, from my perspective, for each client, we need to have a clear view of what we're trying to accomplish here. So one of the first things that we do, and it's actually was the first demo I come up with on this DNN show and tell sessions, it's about keyword selection. So once you have your nice set of 10, 15 high traffic keywords, or phrases, then we try to keep track on those on those keywords. And once we find the client is getting traffic organically from those keywords, then we'll start aiming for very specific cities around the office location. And then we give it a try and then we analyze. And if it works, then we start adding more. So we don't do seven uh, landing pages at once. You know what I mean? We just go
Yeah,
by one and then we do a couple of tests and then we do another one. So we go city by city, let's put it that way. So when we get into the point that we need to create content, that pause between the landing pages creation allows us to easily approach the client and say, hey, we need a specific content from this office, from this location, not just copy and paste what we did on the other one,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
So, because the client eventually will just give you the same content with different keywords, but at the end of the day, in our case, on our contracts, we always specify that the client is responsible for giving us the content because they are the ones who own the business. So they have to give us, we can optimize the content, but definitely the meat and the juice part of the content must come from the client itself. So it all depends on the client, but once they see the results, and it's interesting because once they see the results, they're kind of like interested on getting to know how things work, and they kind of get more time to this. And we help them, for example, now with AI you can come up with prompts to help you create this persona bar, these persona profiles, so then you can come up with high quality content thinking about somebody in specifically. So it has now we have a different couple ways to do this, not only asking the client to do the content and just cross our fingers and hope it's high quality content, but yeah, it's a challenge. We try not to just create a bunch of landing pages for all the cities around, but we try to just go one by one and see how it goes. And once the clients see the value of that effort, they will eventually, put a little more effort on the content creation for the next ones.
Yeah, we've seen that too. I've had a couple of clients recently where once they saw their, hey, I'm not found on blah in blah, and 2 months later, they're in position two on the first page, they get really interested right away. And then
Yeah,
they want to help because, like, oh, we know how to do that. So cool. Good answer.
yeah. Okay, great.
Anyone
Yeah,
else
I
have
mean,
questions?
I have another example. Actually, it's a recent one. The flower shop in Costa Rica, it's a very saturated niche in Google to try to aim for. So if I look for this keyword, which is flower shop in Costa Rica, this is very high traffic keyword, and
Right.
everybody wants to point at. But the client that we have is a flower shop who is located in a small city called Desamparados. So we just aim for that city. And this website has like 3 months not that we publish, and it's right now it's number 5. This is the one.
Cool. Yeah, I
This is
always like
cool.
joking and telling people we think we're
So
good at this and we like doing this search engine placement and domain authority stuff and we like doing all this stuff, but I don't want to do it for a travel agency. There is just way too much competition for any of those valid
yeah.
keywords. It's crazy
Well,
in that market.
yeah,
Even if
yeah.
you do paid ads, the numbers are scary. I don't
Yes.
like seeing $72 per click.
Actually, I have a story about a client who in Costa Rica they offered service for what's the name of the service? Let me just show it real quick because I don't remember in English. These guys. So they provide sheet metal. No, thank you. Sheet metal component and cabinet fabrication. They're in Costa Rica, right? So they came to me once and hey Marco, we want to start putting ads in the coast, both coasts from the US, California and Florida, because there's the ports over there and businesses can buy our services and we can all come up with all these custom metal parts and send them over. So they would start with the Google Ads. And now that you mentioned the cost, Jeremy, when we analyzed the costs, we discovered that the cost per click in the United States for this specific service was way beyond my client's capacity to bid. So it was like $25 per click. It was crazy amount. So after we did that search, we just say, oh no, we're not going to do that. Let's just point at some other country or let's do something else because it's just too expensive. And yes, there are certain business niche that, the cost per click is really high. So you have to think a different approach or solution for them.